What's kind of like the strategy behind what you do? How long are the episodes on that show?
It's all of the above. So some people go, should I do a solo show or should I do a interview show? When you do a solo show and you talk to one person, none of this YouTube crap of, hey guys, it's, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad you're here. Talk to one person. Number one, that's also going to help you if you're worried about the audience. You know, you're freaking out. You're trying to start your podcast and you're thinking about it's like you don't have an audience yet. So let's just talk to that one person who really needs to hear your stuff. So you grow your influence when you do a solo show. When you do an interview show, you grow your network. And so do both. So that's that. And I occasionally will interview students of the School of Podcasting, especially if they're doing something cool and things like that. So I do that to give them a little promotion. Just for me, my audience is looking to how can I get more downloads? And I want to inspire them. I have a segment of my show because after a while, you kind of run out of different ways to say, seriously, would you just start a podcast? So I created a segment called Because of My Podcast. And I always just tell people, if you can answer that question because of my podcast, blank. Like mine is because of my podcast, I got hired at the New Media Expo to be their podcast guy. And people will send in stuff. I got to meet Alice Cooper because of my podcast. I met my wife, all this stuff. And so that inspires people to get them going. The length of the show is anywhere from, in the early days, it was like 15 to 20 minutes. And when I met my audience in person, the first thing they said is it needs to be longer. So I was like, man, that's a lot of Dave. And they're like, no. I'm only halfway to work by the time your show's over. I was like, okay. So it's usually now about a half hour to 40 minutes. But I did an episode once because I just got a tsunami of questions about interviews, how to be interviewed, how to do interviews, how to schedule them, how to record them. So I said, all right, I'm doing a brain dump. And I did an hour and probably 10 minutes on interviews. And I didn't have a single person say that was too long. I did have people say I had to pull over and take notes, but I love, there's a book called Beyond Powerful Radio by a woman named Valerie Geller. It's a great book. And my favorite line out of the whole book is there is no such thing as too long, only too boring. And I've run into that. I mean, Dan Carlin does 2-3 hour episodes of hardcore history. And yet when that guy puts out an episode, he breaks all the rules, by the way. He doesn't publish on a consistent basis. And there are these mammoth long episodes when he does them. And I work for Libsyn, which is a podcast media hosting company. And I was in their office once and Dan released an episode and the head IT guy came out and kind of made a joke. He's like, oh, watch, Dave, the lights are going to dim. And I go, why is that? And he goes, Dan Carlin just released an episode. And I was like, oh, okay. But, so I always say whatever topic it is, and I write a blog post before I actually record because I'm a little scatterbrained. And so if I can kind of flesh out what is it I'm really trying to say, what do I want people to do? How do I want them to feel when I get done listening to this episode? So I flesh that out first. Then I write down a couple bullet points and I basically look at my invisible friend across the table and I talk to them for however long it needs to be. If it's 20 minutes, it's 20 minutes. My last episode, I think, was just under 30. And at the end, I said, hey, if you're thinking I usually do another 10 minutes here, guess what? I got nothing to say. I'm not going to waste your time. So, and I just went into it's like, I'm done. I covered what I needed to cover and we're done. We're out of here. So that's kind of my rule on length.